Hey guys, it's Kai and welcome to the third constructive critique. The first one is by Walner. This is the after and this is the before. I really like the green and yellows. The warmth in this shot is really amazing, as well as how you framed it. This log definitely just leads me into the image. And the way you use the lighting as well as the color and saturation is really amazing. One thing I noticed is that when you use the vignette, it might have been a bit too strong on the sides. For example, on the rocks here, it's still quite contrasting as well as here. So that kind of brings my attention away from this log, which I think is the center of this image. So the first thing I actually did was I faded this part a bit more. So our eyes can kind of look at this section more frequently than here. Next was I thought let's add a bit more light to the top just to brighten it up. Afterwards, I know the image was quite warm, so I thought let's add some blues as well as some greens to the shadows. Then, this is just a personal preference. I thought this image was a bit strong on the contrast, so I actually just removed most of the contrast and made this image more soft as well as easier on the eyes, because when it's more contrasting, your eyes kind of feel like you want to look at here, you want to look at here, you want to look at here. So our eyes just keep looking all over the image because there's so much contrasting elements all around and it feels really overwhelming. When I decrease the contrast, it's just a lot softer and it feels easier on the eyes. And finally, I kind of decided to add more light to the top and made it a bit more warm. Then I finish it off with a kind of bring back the mood as well as a tiny bit more contrast. And just to show you a quick before and after. Alright, so for the next image, this one is by Geoffrey. And the first thing I noticed is the way you edit this is really amazing. I really like dark and moody edits that have a dreamy light kind of coming from one of the corners. And the way you kind of incorporated colds into the shadows as well as warmth into the highlights is really brilliant because this creates a really good color combination. There's nothing I really want to change, but there's maybe a little bit of tiny adjustments. When I look at the histogram, I just see that a lot of pure darks are kind of hugging the side. What I did was I created a curve adjustment layer and I raised the left tail a bit just to make it less dynamic. Kind of move all the details that were kind of hugging the left side of the histogram more to the right. Next was I thought let's add a bit more light to the corners because everything looks more dramatic with more light. And I decided to add a bit more colors into the overall image. So I just brought a bit more blues to the shadows and a bit more yellows to the highlights. The final thing I noticed was this part is really great, but I felt like the highlights might have been a bit too much. So I actually decreased the highlights to kind of bring back some details. Just to show you a quick before and after when I decrease the highlights, because I feel like this image is really dynamic and really dramatic. So for the waterfall, the highlights should be decreased a bit just to show how detailed it is. Overall, I love this edit as well as the way you frame the shot. Really great work. And our final image for today is an image by Telmo. This is a very epic scene. I really like how the light's kind of shining down, especially these light rays. The first thing I noticed though is the image feels a bit too warm. So what I did was I actually brought in some more cold tones. So I brought in some greens as well as a little bit of a blue feel. Another thing I noticed was the image felt a bit dark, as you can see from the histogram. So I just created curves and kind of decrease the contrast in the darker areas by kind of moving a lot of the darker details kind of to the right. And then I thought, let's kind of give this part a little bit of a vignette, because I kind of want the light to kind of come from a corner. This way it will direct the eyes a bit better. So I just brighten up this part a bit more. And what I did here was, I was thinking this image is missing a subject, but because I saw this tree here that was actually getting lit up, I thought, why not give this a nice little quick dodge? Then this tree can also become more eye-catching, which can become our subject of this image. And what I also noticed is that the landscape here is quite dark, but the river is very bright. So I thought, let's actually darken this a bit to kind of just follow the trend that if this part's dark, this part should be a bit dark as well. And lastly, I finished it off by fading this part a bit more, because I think what we want the viewers to kind of look at is here instead of here. And by having this part very contrasting, the viewers will kind of look at this part first. And just to show you a quick before and after. And yeah, so that's it for this video. Thanks everyone for submitting their work for critique. I'm really enjoying doing these, and I hope these are helpful for you as well. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys next week for another critique. Cheers!